Trust in him, he'll write your story, clothed in righteousness and glory. My Father won't let go, touched by prayer. Holy is his name. Healer of every guilty stain. Our hearts are full and overflowing. Every way your love is showing. In everything give thanks, touched by prayer. Jesus is his name. Redeemer of every hurt and shame. Holy is his name. Healer of every guilty stain. For him majesty and splendor, open up complete surrender. Our Father loves you so, touched by prayer.
Hey guys, welcome to Touched by Prayer. Happy Tuesday. Can you believe it? Tuesday night. What a beautiful day. Hello, hello. Let's see who is in the house. Oh my gosh. Mama Karen, Lori. Miss you, miss you, miss you, miss you. Hey, Tara. Hello, Trace. Make sure that you tell your friends. Hey, Roberta. Make sure that you tell your friends that we are here. Yes. Miss Lori Suter, please, please, please. PK Watson, hello, hello, hello. Hello, Audrey. Hello, Patty. Just a quick hi. Magical Trevor's in the house. Come on. It is going to be a good night. Hello, Angie. Let's just go over and see the Foxhole people. Hello, Foxhole. How are you? Hey, Dolphin72. Thank you guys for listening. I think I'm working, but I'm not 100% sure. So come on over to D Live or come over to YouTube. Hello, hello. Hey, Angie. Are you guys excited? I am so excited because look. Finding Home. One of my most favorite books next to The Shack. Seriously, I have 3 favorite books, and 2 of them are by 2 people that actually all 3 of them, all 3 books I love, which is The Shack, which was the first book. The second book was I'm sorry, Jeremy Mangersheen's book, The Bridge Across Troubled Water. The Longest Bridge Across Water. I'm sorry, Jeremy. But I love Jeremy's book. And of course, Finding Home. And today I have the awesome task of introducing you to Jesse Birkey. Who is Jesse Birkey? Well, I've known Jesse for about, oh my gosh, I think almost 6 years. I love him, love his family. Kara, his beautiful, amazingly talented wife, she's one of mine. That's right. She's one of my kids. She is my daughter in my heart, in my mind, in my spirit. I just love her. I love the family. When I get to go to Florida, I get to go and spend some time with them. It's always such a joy. And I really felt like God just wanted to bring him on, and we're going to talk about his book. We're going to talk about his life. He is a lieutenant in the fire department in Florida. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but we are going to talk about what God is doing. We're going to see what's ever on God's heart. And so without further ado, I am going to bring on the wonderful and talented Jesse Birkey. Hello, Jesse Birkey. Welcome to Touch by Prayer.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such an honor being here with you. Always a pleasure to get to talk to you. And I love seeing all these names, these familiar names pop up on the side. Got Lori and Karen and so many others that are popping up, and it's so good to see that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am so excited. And some of the people don't know how awesome you are, and of course how amazing you of a writer you are. So I want to talk about your book, Finding Home, which you can get on Amazon. I'm going to bring it back up again. Hello. And actually, you know what? Because, sometimes you have to say things twice. Boom. Yeah, do it there. So,
look at that.
Yeah, I know. It's like,
it's all up in my face.
It is all up in your face, isn't it?
It's all
up in your face.
Hey, can we take a second to talk about the theme song that was coming on there? That was such a great song.
California.
I felt like, yeah, I loved how it picked up further into it, but especially in the beginning, it felt like one of the songs that I listen to when I'm just kind of wanting to spend time with God. I was kind of swaying and like, oh, right? This is good. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. All of it was so good. I love it.
I know. I mean, and you started with me when I started Touch by Prayer. I think it was like in 2015 that you came on. And we did a podcast, and I'll never forget because I started out with podcasts, and I called up Jeremy because Jeremy, and you were friends. I'm like, do you think that he would actually come on? He's like, yeah, just kind of. I'm like, yeah, but because at that time you were doing a program called Project Afterlife, which was about raising the dead, and it was talking about people who had near-death experience or after-death experiences, which was so stinking amazing. I mean, the show was great, and I got to meet Sam Wagner, who I love, and I just got to see. I saw him.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I saw him in January. I went down to North Carolina because I was interviewed at the Sid Roth studio, and so we went and we actually hooked up, and we met. We went to Panera and had some conversation, and he is just awesome.
He's
so
great.
Awesome. I love him. I love Sam.
Shout out to Sam. Many shout outs to Sam Wagner.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So my gosh, there is so much to talk about. So when you first came on, we were doing podcasts, and then you and we started to become friends. And of course, then you were doing something called Video Interactive Ministry, which was called VIM. And so we started I was on there. I think I was on there with Dave, and we were prophesying over people, and which was fun. And then of course, I got to meet Kara, who I fell in love with. And so then you guys became a part of my family. And
I fell in love with her too.
It's amazing how she does that. She's pretty good at that. So one of the things that was really interesting is that I felt like I was supposed to be interviewed, and God kept saying that, Lisa, you need to be interviewed. And I asked you, I said, Jess, will you interview me? So you interviewed me on my birthday so that people could kind of get to know me. And again, it was still just doing it like with audio, but then came video. But I don't think you guys did video with me, did you? You only did my 200th show.
Yeah, I was on with Tyler, and when Jeremy came on, and who's that? Michael Fram was on there, and then Dave. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So that's the only time I've been on with video.
Yeah. So so we need to have both you and Kara, because like you guys have so much, like God has moved in your life in such tremendous ways. But before we go into that, I want to just kind of sit a little bit on this book because I love this book. And it was funny because when you first wrote the book, I asked you to come on Touch by Prayer to interview you, but I didn't have a copy of the book and I didn't read the book. But don't tell the author. Just don't
worry,
tell
I won't
the author.
say anything.
And so I kept saying it was a lot like The Shack, and so I was able to like somehow get through the entire interview process without like disclosing that I didn't actually read the book. I
Nice
know.
work. That speaks to your amazing skill at what
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah, of BSing. Yes. But this is the beautiful part is I did read the book. I finally one day I read the book, and I read the book in I think I read it in 2 days because it's a pretty thick book. I read the book in 2 days, and I called you up and I said, "Okay, Jesse, now you really have to come back on, and we really need to talk about your book because I loved it so stinking much." And there were so many beautiful things in this book, and you have written some short stories, and you've actually written 4 other books, and one which is a devotional that you wrote with Kara. No, and then you also wrote a book about marriage with Kara. And I think you guys co-wrote that together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so you've had 2 co-authoring books that you wrote with your wife. And then, of course, you've written some other books. One of them is Resurrection. I think it's Resurrection Life, right?
Life
Life
Resurrected.
Sorry.
Yep.
And what was the other book? Light in the Darkness? Is that it?
A Walk Through the Light is
See,
the
I'm really
short
bad.
story. Well, I know you called Jeremy's book The Bridge Across Troubled Water. I would read that book. That actually sounds like a really good book. We'll have to see if he can write that one. That's the sequel to The Longest Bridge Across Water, The Bridge Across Troubled Waters. Or The Troubled Bridge Across Water would be good too.
I hope he's not watching. He's probably watching. He's probably cracking up. You're making me cry. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. All of a sudden I was hearing Bridge Over Troubled Waters. I'm like, wait, no, that's not it.
Yeah, you can't get it out of your head once you start down that path. Yeah.
I know. And I actually went over The Longest Bridge Across Water, which was in New Orleans. And let me tell you something. It's a long bridge. And and it was me, and it was Ginny, and it was Margie. And as we were going over, I think when we were coming back, we all felt like we were going to get sick. And we're like, how did Jeremy do this he had to do this every day. But but that's another book that I absolutely love. The Longest Bridge Across Water. Not troubled water, but water.
Just regular water.
Just the regular water. I know. But do you know what? When we were over it, it was troubled. I'm just saying. It was really troubled. I'm sorry, Jeremy. Okay. So let's talk about Finding Home.
Okay.
Because this is a fictional book, number 1.
Sure. Yep.
And it is the way that you are able to weave a web of storytelling. It's like it is so comparable, as I said, to The Shack. I mean, it is such a beautifully told story where you are intertwining different people's lives for a climactic end. How about that? I'll put it that way, because I don't want to give away too much. But what I loved about this is that there were times, and I said this to you off air today, that when I was reading the book, I'm like, wait, Jeremy wrote this? I'm sorry, Jesse wrote this book? Jesse wrote this book? And yeah, Jeremy did not write this book. Jeremy did not write this book, so that would be wrong. But I was like, Jesse wrote this book? Because there really is, there's a lot of passion and just deep thoughts, and the way that, because you're talking about women and women's personalities, and you're talking about men, and it was really beautiful, and you captured the father's heart truly in this book. So how did Finding Home come about?
Well, I think Ted Decker is a Christian fiction writer who's had a whole lot of bestsellers, and I took a writing class with him, and he said the shortest distance from the head to the heart is through story. And I find that to be in my life, I find that to be very true. For certain people, and maybe a whole lot of certain people, there doesn't seem to be a better way to really impact someone with a principle or the truth more than what storytelling can do. And I had written a couple nonfiction books before I wrote Finding Home, and I enjoyed the process, and I enjoyed being able to write and express myself in a way that maybe I don't fully do when I get up and speak in front of a group of people. I love both of those assignments. I love both of those venues, but there's something different about when I write. I'm able to communicate or express myself differently, deeper maybe, or and maybe sometimes it has to do with being able to take a breath and really sit with the Lord and really just kind of discover what you want to say and how you want to say it. And so I was writing the nonfiction, and I really began to dream about story, and probably a lot of it had to do with how story impacted my own life. I've always loved fiction books. I've always loved story. When I start a book a fiction book that I get into, I finish it fairly quickly. It's hard to pry myself away from it, and so it seemed like that was being birthed in me, and this passion to be able to write story, and then the story of finding home just dropped into my heart one day, and I could see it. I could see it from beginning to end, and I could see the beauty of the end, and the journey through the challenges of the characters and what life presents. It was important to me to be able to incorporate the aspects of salt and light. And I just recently heard a phenomenal message from an associate pastor, a teaching pastor up at Woodland Hills Church. His name is Dan Kent. He's become a close friend of mine. And he talked about this being the salt and the light. And an analogy he used was the secular versus the Christian media, and how so often in Christian media we are the light, but we somehow abandon the salt. And the way that was defined was the salt is the raw life experience, the realness, the reality of how we live and the challenges that we must face. And then the light encompasses the kingdom principles. And we need both. The world, the people who are living, the generation, especially the generation coming up now, they're looking for authenticity. And if you're missing the raw reality of life and what you're trying to present, they're not going to connect with you. But on the flip side, if you're missing the light, if you're missing the kingdom, the hope that comes at the end, then there's nothing to aspire to. There's nothing at the end of that journey. And so, yeah, you need the raw and the reality of life, but you also need the hope that comes at the end and the beauty of where you're traveling to. And so, as I was really envisioning this story of finding home, those were two main components that had to be a part of it. We couldn't have at that time there was Christian media was kind of cheesy. And we just couldn't have that. We can't have that anymore. It's got to be real, and it's got to be raw, and it's got to be something that you can connect to. And so the characters in Finding Home, they go through the raw reality of life. The journey, though, is beautiful, and where they end up is beautiful. And there's hope, and there's lights, and there's fulfillment. And so that's just yeah.
It's such a great. It's a great way. What I see about Finding Home without, I don't want to give anything of it away because it's just it's so phenomenal, and it really does take you on a journey. It takes you through the ebb and the flow of what sometimes is what life can throw at us, but it shows the consistency, the strategy of a God who loves us so very much, that he really is a God of restoration. He really is a God of redemption, that he really is that turnaround God that can take and give you beauty for your ashes. That's what
Yeah.
I loved about that book, because there was so much redemption in every part of it, even when you couldn't see it. How could God redeem this? But that's exactly what you wrote, is that there was redemption in every single story and tale that was written with each character.
Yeah. And that was my goal in my short story compilation, A Walk Through the Light, as well, which was and will probably always be one of my favorite projects. Just short, condensed stories that are from tragedy to redemption, and there's always hope coming in at the end. So, yeah, the pain and the trauma, not so beautiful, but
Right.
there are so many beautiful parts of how God touches us in the midst of it
Mhm.
and brings us out on the other side in a way that maybe we don't expect. And it's got to be beautiful because He's beautiful. And yeah,
Well, there it is right there.
hey,
Hey, look at that. That's amazing. Look at
that
that.
is amazing. Look at that. Look at all those people.
Oh, that's so cool. And, now does that have that one story about the dancing at the prom?
It does. It's called "May I Have This Dance."
Yes,
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite stories. I thought it was, but
yeah,
oh, especially because, like, when you sent it to me, I was like, "Whoa," especially because I just recently had an encounter that I told you about with Jesus, where I danced
yeah,
with him.
yeah.
And so you sent it to me. You actually gave me and I still have it, the typewritten, story. So
Oh wow,
yeah, I know. See, look how nice you are to me.
that's so nice.
You are so nice. You're like, "Here, I got this,"
Yeah.
and that was that story that I was just weeping. It was so, so good. Look who's there. It's my favorite girl. Hello,
I
Miss
did see
Kara.
her. I did
I
see her pop up
know.
there.
Aw. Yeah, it was just like junior prom. Yep, just like it was so good. It's so good. It's so good. So
Mm.
let me show the book again, just so if you guys want to go to Amazon, you can go and get all these incredible books. So we got that one and we got that one. And then of course, there's the third, which we're gonna talk about, which is the life resurrected. And that is and just give a little bit of that.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful cover, by the way.
Yeah. A guy named Jeff Dom does amazing work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That was the Life Resurrected. That was the second book that I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And that came out of there's a lot of stories in there from on the job testimonies. I started out as a firefighter paramedic, and so I had a lot of opportunities to talk to patients and to pray and minister with patients in the back of the ambulance. And I had the opportunity to pray for people who had died and see some people come back. And so that's one component of Life Resurrected. The other component is how my journey, my own personal journey, that showcases how I was even in a place to where I could pray for somebody to be healed, or I could talk to somebody about kingdom principles or deliver a prophetic word, and what I had to overcome in order to have the courage to be able to do that. And so there's just a lot of testimony in that one.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit further because your prophetic gifting is so good. In fact, whenever I get discouraged, I actually go back to the words that you and Kara prayed over me. I have the prophecies that you spoke over me, and I just listen to them again.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so let's talk about like because you had this video interactive ministry before, like in the very very beginning, before
Yeah.
there was all this, Zoom calls and all that. The Berkeys were on there. You guys were on the cutting edge, like getting, hey, what if we do church? I don't know, through the computer. You
Yeah.
were just ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
You were
Right.
ahead of 2020. That's all. So let's talk about Vim because I think that Vim was, and everybody who had been a part of Vim misses it. They miss it because there was something very special because it was not just a church. It really was an apostolic phone call or an apostolic interactive video teaching where you were training up people to operate like in the gifts and in their callings. That's basically what you were doing.
Yeah, Vim was a virtual interactive ministry. That was a lot of fun. That was a really great season for us, and I know that we had so much positive feedback from that. But yeah, you're exactly right. I think the goal or the mission of virtual interactive ministry was always to train others, to give them a safe place to where they could practice hearing God's voice and delivering that word, to delivering words of knowledge, praying for people who were sick and needed intervention from God in their physical bodies, and just it was such a beautiful thing. The amount of, and not just the guests, and I'll talk about some of the guests in a second, but being able, we always try to incorporate at the end of the broadcast for people who felt like they wanted to come on camera, to be able to do that and deliver a word to somebody in the audience. They could do that if they wanted. And we would always get people that would say, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And we put them on camera.
Paul Wilcox would do that. Papa Paul.
And so, yeah. And so they would come on and they'd deliver a word, and it was amazing. And people got a chance to practice the gifts that God had given them, and to have experience stepping out where they might not be comfortable stepping out. And do you remember we took Vim to like Starbucks, and we took Vim out on the road?
Yes, I remember that. That was crazy.
We'd take the computer over to where a couple was sitting, and everybody in the audience would type in a word, prophesy over them. People just got so blessed by that. Their hearts, God used that to touch their hearts right there in the restaurant or a coffee shop, wherever we happened to be. But yeah, so that was the most beautiful part of it. And then of course there are the people who are being ministered to, and we had healing testimonies and just people who experienced God wrapping their arms around them, and just being not distant, not a distant father, but a close personal father that is ready to get down in whatever muck that they're in, and to love them through it, and to move them toward freedom. Got to meet people. We had you on as a guest, and Dave Hayes was on, and we got to meet Doug Addison, people like Doug Addison, William Paul Young, Lana Vosser, Nate Johnson, Richard Mull came on with us a couple times. Once he came on from Africa, that was fun. And so just Vim was really
Michael
amazing.
Van Vlymen. You had Michael Van Vlymen on.
Oh, Michael Van Vlymen was on. Yep.
Yeah,
just a lot of really great people.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of fun.
It was really a special time, because I remember like even Nate Johnson, it was before he was going to do Touch by Prayer, and he prophesied over me, not realizing like who I was. And again, like anytime you get a prophecy, I really believe that you need to write it or record it in some way or fashion, because you need to play that back, because you might not understand it then. But there is a time and a season that you're going to start to see those things come out, if it truly, really was from God. And there were some things that, definitely the stuff that you guys have said, and definitely the stuff that Nate has said, that I've constantly gone back and said, here, let me listen to this to remind myself, and not only to remind myself, but to remind God, I haven't forgotten this promise. I haven't forgotten this. So I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
I'm putting your feet to the fire, Papa.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right. So, okay. So let's go. So this is kind of like Jesse Birkey. This is your life. Right.
I'm ready. Are we live yet?
Are we live?
Are we live?
Okay. Okay. So then after Vim, and God really started to put, and this is one of the coolest things, because they really want to have Kara come on and to share how when God puts a seed in your heart, and then all he has to do is start blowing on it, and he can start, and once he starts blowing on it, it starts to bloom. And so he always put this seed in her heart that she was supposed to have a fitness boutique, not just a health club, but it was a fitness boutique. It was a place for her to help people to get fit mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, to give them a place of home, security, and a family. That's what I see as Flow Fitness.
Yeah. Yeah. And all through 2016, she had been kind of
contemplating.
Contemplating. Yes. Thank you. That's why you make the big bucks over there on the left side.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. This vision for some sort of women's fitness model. And she processed a couple different things, but we were sitting, it came around to a studio. is what it came around to, and a women's only fitness studio, group classes only. And I remember we were sitting in a restaurant in, I think it was August of 2016, and we had a conversation about it. And I told her, just go for it, let's do it. And that was the launch right there. And we opened in March of 2017. It's called Flow Fitness Boutique. It's a women's only fitness studio, group classes, and let's see, so 4 years was just a couple months ago. So we'll be 5 years next March.
Yeah.
And it was, Kara just said it was Lisa's prophetic word that brought it. Yep. So it was your word that really brought it to the surface. So yeah, you need to have her on sometime. She can tell you the whole story on, and go through exactly what that's been like for her.
Do you think you could introduce me? You think you might have an in with her that maybe I can grab her?
All right, we'll talk later. I'll see what I can do. She's got such a busy schedule,
I know.
Pouring into all these women in the community. No, but that is exactly what you said. It's a place that feeds the women of this community, spiritually, mentally, physically, and she gets to pour into them. And it's been great for her. And I know we were talking a little bit earlier before we went on the air about the difference between purpose and calling.
Yeah.
That it's not about the title, or it's not about the function. It's about who you're becoming in the midst of it. And so and this is just a certain perspective on how to view something like a Flow Fitness. And you could say, to gain a perspective on purpose versus calling, you could say it's never been about Flow Fitness. It's never been about this fitness center in the community of Riverview, Florida. It's always been about who Kara has become in the process of bringing it to life. And of course, you can never ignore the impacts to the people around it. But for her and for me, as we journeyed through this, what we became through it and what we were able to develop as part of our character and our reliance on God, and was just priceless, and it's just been an amazing journey.
Oh yeah. And to see something that was just a dream. Like that to me, I think about you guys all the time, because, with every dream, it's just like with birthing a child and having a baby. When the baby comes, you're like, you're excited, but it's like, it's running a fever. Oh my gosh, it needs to be changed. Oh my God. So there's all these other things that can come in, but then you come into your stride as the child, it develops enough that you're not so on top of it, that you're not having to worry about all the minutia, but that you can actually sit back and enjoy, and to see it growing and having legs of its own, that it's starting to move by itself, and that you don't have to sit there and, come on, and that's the beauty part. But the trust and the faith and the way that you guys have just seen God move in miraculous ways. It's like God just really moved on this. His heart was in it. And I want to go back to what you were saying, Jess, about the purpose, because there was a purpose that God had for Flow Fitness. And it was a purpose to help to grow Kara into this incredible, amazing woman that was always locked up inside there. Yeah. And so now she's able to be completely free. But its purpose also is to do the same thing to all the women who come in. So Kara becomes the model of what Flow Fitness can do. Yeah. And then she's able to then replicate that whole thing to the women. And she's like, look, God did it for me, so he's going to do it for you. What are your dreams? What are your visions? It's about getting fit, but it's also, like I said, it's a community, because I've met some of these women. This is a family that you guys have.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it would be great for us, and we should probably, as people, understand a little bit more that things like businesses and we'll just use Flow Fitness for example. It's just a building with 4 walls that has a name over the top of it, and there's fitness equipment inside, and there's nothing special about 4 walls and a roof and a name. it's the person coming into it who's anointed. It's a person coming into it that has a purpose of development and becoming the man or woman that God has always intended for them to be. And it's as we grow and mature through the process that we are able to impact every single person that comes through those doors and that helps them become the man or woman that God has intended them to be. And they go out and touch more lives. And so I think that, and I've been thinking about this a lot, and so I've been talking about it a lot because it's been important to me that we stop focusing so much on the function or the title, and we focus on who it is that God wants us to become, who it is that God is maturing us into in the process, and we really embrace that. It's never been about the book Finding Home. It's never been about Life Resurrected. It's never been a walk through the light. It's always been about who God has developed me into through the writing process, and it's only because I've embraced that, and through writing these projects have grown and matured, that the beauty of Jesus can shine through the pages and impact everybody who reads it. And so that's been making quite an impact on me lately.
Well, and I think that because of everything that happened in 2020, there were a lot of things that were brought into the light. And part of that has been we in some ways, because it could have been a very different outcome,
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of people have felt like they've gotten a second chance. So we almost kind of, through 2020, I hate to say it, near-death experience, but we didn't know. We didn't know, and all the emotions and all the trauma and all the stuff that we had to walk through. When we came out back into the light and we're starting to see that there are certain truths that are being said. But even with that, there are things inside of us that it's almost like, okay, now is the time that I'm going to start stepping into the things that God has called me to be, because now I can understand the value of the limited amount of time that we can have. And so if we want to make the greatest impact, it's just about listening to God and to following him in whatever it is it says, instead of putting everything on the back burner. It's like, okay, this is what I've called you to do. This is what I've anointed you to do. This is part of your gifting. This is part of your essence, that you can't run from it, that people see you and they see it. So you can't hide from it anymore. And so if you've been called to these different places, whether to be a speaker or to be a teacher or to be, a pastor for some people, or it's even just to be that leader without the four walls of the church that are confining and constricting you, but being a leader that can see people who need to be trained up because you have the proper stuff inside of you to groom them into a better version of themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's 100% right. Yep.
And so as you've been going through all of these different things, and you've been in the fire department for a very long time, and now you're a lieutenant, and so there's different responsibilities and there's different shifts and ebbs and flows throughout life, but the foundation and the anchor that has sustained you has been your relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
So taking that and bringing it into other people's lives, because now that you're a leader in your fire department, like how has that helped you to be a better guide, or I even call it like a father?
Yeah. Well, to have a position as a leader, as a recognized leader over a group of people, and there's a lot of people in a whole bunch of different fields that have that, who you have employees that are underneath you, and you have a team, and you're responsible for guiding them and making sure that everybody stays on task and doing the things that they're supposed to do. It's been very important for me, especially in this role, now that I have a crew of 6 people that I'm responsible for, to institute kingdom principles into this environment in a way that's not going to turn anybody off. That's not so overtly Christian, but the principles are true, and the principles are grounded in kingdom. Because everybody wants to be part of. First of all, it's important for me to do that because that's the way I want to live. That's a kind of environment that I want to be a part of. I want to be a part of an atmosphere that is uplifting and encouraging, and in overt ways and subtle ways, because elevate the love of Jesus in everything that we're doing. And I have the opportunity to do some of that. And so one of the ways that things have shifted is I get to look for opportunities to build and cultivate kingdom culture in the fire station that I'm at. And as I was saying, that you can bring in kingdom principles without being so overtly Christian that it turns people off. And the challenge is discovering how to do that. But the rewarding thing isn't, and sometimes we don't think of this, but it becomes obvious when you're just around people. People want to be a part of an environment, an atmosphere that is grounded in kingdom principles. They just want that. It just makes sense. Like, people don't want to be trapped in a culture that's destructive, where people tear each other down, or where you have no hope at advancing in your career, where there's no education, where there's no motivation, where there's nobody, when there's nobody who is inspiring you to take extra steps or to do some extra things in order to advance or to improve yourself. And so I got to come in and lay out and talk about with the crew what kind of culture that we wanted our station to cultivate. And so we get to come to work in a station, in an environment that's uplifting and honoring, where people feel like they're not going to be attacked and torn down, where people don't feel like they're alone, and where they're encouraged and motivated to participate in education and training and those types of things. All these things that build each other up, that improve morale and attitude, and help us to smile more. And it's really beautiful what happens in that. The dynamic is just beautiful in that. And not every day is a perfect day, but I see that. I see the light that is there from that. And the hope is that we lead people from what they're doing into God's ideal, and they begin to ask questions along the way. And so that's what I'm walking through right now at work.
Well, I got to tell you that one of the things I said this off camera. I'm like, I don't know, Jess. I said, I kind of see you like the guy from Courageous, that movie Courageous. And if you guys haven't seen it, it was about firefighters, but I mean, police officers. But, I can see how you are teaching men to be that men of integrity, that man who is going to stand up, who's going to be the better version of themselves because they have you as a leader. That's what I see you like accomplishing, because you can't, there's that old expression, if you sleep with dogs, you get fleas. But it's like, who are you hanging out with? Who are you going to model yourself after? It's going to be the person who's going to be who's going to give you the most influence, are going to be the people that are going to be in your life the longest. And so having that responsibility and taking that to the next level with some people, because I do see that there is going to be some shifting where you're going to even be ministering, not in the conventional way, but you're going to be ministering to them and helping them to, just like you do with everybody, and you're going to pull the gold out of people, because that's what you do. You're like me. You're a gold digger. Just saying. I'm telling you, I'm getting a T-shirt. I'm getting a T-shirt that says I'm a gold digger. I'm telling you.
Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it gets to be in a large part who I'm becoming as I'm courageous and obedient in doing that, because it's not the easiest thing in the world to always pour into a culture that is honoring and uplifting. There is pressure, especially when you get a bunch of type A personalities in the same room. It can go off the rails fairly quickly, and you just have to. But you have to be bold, and you have to take courage and steer it back in a direction that away from vulgarity and back into a direction that everybody can feel honored and uplifted and be a part of. So it's challenging and it's rewarding, and if you if you allow God to work on you in the process, you'll be able to develop some skills that you wouldn't get elsewhere. So.
I love that. And okay, so let's talk about, because you said vulgarity, and that there is a certain way that people view things in the world that are okay. And I know that lately your heart and your compassion for people who have been sex trafficked and people who have been caught up in the adult entertainment market, that there it has been such a I want to say that the Lord's been really kind of dealing with your heart of compassion for these people who are trapped in it, because you've been very vocal about it on some social media outlets. So, do you want to kind of talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I read a book called Purchased, Leaving the Sex Trade, and it's written by a woman named Deanna Lynn. And I cried for probably 2 to 3 days after I got done reading that. I was so sad and distraught. And I think that, I mean, the topic of the sex industry and pornography is so big, and it's been talked about so much. But I think so in some ways I don't even know where to start. But I do see one thing at the foundation of this horrific industry, and I kind of view it as the greatest lie of the sex industry, and that being that the people who are involved in it love and enjoy what they're doing. That is 100% the opposite of what these men and women, and unfortunately, in a lot of cases, children are experiencing. They are paid to make you believe they're performers. They're paid to make you believe that they enjoy what they're doing, and they hate it. And the women hate men, and the men hate what they're doing, and it's just it's one big lie. It's one big fantasy, and I'm convinced that because I spent a lot of time, even before I read this book, I spent a lot of time looking at interviews from women who had been a part of the sex industry and pornography, and getting their testimonies and hearing what they have to say about their experiences in it. I'm convinced that the time for men teaching men how to be free from pornography and the sex industry is over. Like that, I am so over men trying to teach men how to be free from this stuff. We need to be hearing it from the women who are involved in it. We need to be able to listen to women tear off that veil, and to really hear the way that they talk about it. They are some of the most diseased, broken, addicted, drugs and alcohol addicted, tormented, abused, raped women in the world. It is tragic, absolutely horrific what they have gone through in their lives that have put them in a position to where this is the only option that they feel like they have. They have grown up without feeling loved and cared for. They have been groomed by men who know how to pervert their minds and manipulate them into doing what they want to do. They have been encountered by drugs like meth and cocaine on the street to help them feel some sort of validation and acceptance. And by the time most of them have been prostituted before they get into pornography. They're all led into pornography with this promise of fame and fortune and this glamorous lifestyle. And from the moment they get into that industry, they are forced to do things that would just make you want to throw up, and progress through that. They take them and they make them do the most grotesque, violent acts right off the bat to break their spirit and to get them to do whatever they want them to do. The average life expectancy of a porn star is 37 years old. That's insane. When the rest of the U.S. population is 78.
Wow.
We need this fantasy to be destroyed. Because the reason why I think that this lie is so destructive, that they enjoy what they're doing, that it's their choice. So listen, when you when your choice is being sex trafficked, prostituted, or performing on camera, sex acts on camera, or death, and that's your reality, you can either do this or you can die.
Right.
That is not a choice. That is coercion.
Yeah.
And the reality of that person's life is that they are not choosing to do what they do. They're doing it because they feel like they have to and they have no other choice. That is the reality of what they live in. So it's not a choice that they're making. It's their choice is to live. That's what they're doing. And at the end, many of them choose not to do that because the suicide rate is so high. But when men or whoever's watching, many women watch pornography. When you look at that, when we look at that and we see and we believe that they're enjoying it, then that destroys the moral conflict of participating with something that is abusive to the person, because we believe that no, they like this, they want it, so it's okay to participate with them in it. And so we need that to be destroyed. We need the truth to get out there and for people to understand. And we need men and we need women to listen to these testimonies, so that we no longer have any business believing that this is something that they love doing, that this is something that they enjoy doing. And I pray that every man, woman, and child who is trapped in this industry would have such a powerful encounter with the love of Jesus,
Yeah.
that they would understand their true worth and value, and they would that God would send people to them to deliver them from this prison, and that they would be able to be free from it. And I would love to be involved and be a part of the solution. I don't really know how to do that for me right now. I'm just waiting. I have such a passion, sympathy for it at this point. And I feel deeply for people who are trapped in it. In fact, one of the characters in Finding Home was a victim to some of that. So I'm just waiting, picking my spots to be vocal about it, and seeing what kind of designation or calling God could have for me in that avenue in the future. I don't know what that would be or what that is, but it's a tragic industry that needs to crumble.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I think that it's not the dirty little secret anymore, because it's become, there have been, I don't know, since 2020, how many arrests of different men, from pedophiles to sex traffickers, all these people who have been arrested. There have been a lot of people who've been arrested in the year of 2020. So there is definitely something, but I think that, like you said, the illusion, which it is, that spirit of lust needs to be fed. It's just like the spirit of fear. We have been taught that if it's fear is going to remove our faith. And what is lust going to do? Lust is the perversion of desire and of purity. And so what it's trying to do is trying to distort what God had created, what God had intended, because it's not that lust. It's also not love. And so the children, it's mostly the children that are not caught up in it, but it's those who are being raised up right now who are watching all of these different like movies and stuff, not pornography per se, but there still is a lot of sexual innuendos that are being brought where they're trying to be groomed that this stuff is okay. I know that there was just this thing about Nickelodeon that their viewership has just gone down because of what they were trying to do. Same with Netflix. Netflix had this television show called Cuties, which was basically pornographic, and it was definitely inappropriate in every way, shape, or form, because it was encouraging pedophilia, and that's the big agenda. That's the big agenda right now. It's like, what is, and I don't mean the church as the four walls, but I do mean as believers, as people who have been bought by the blood of Jesus Christ. When do we start to stand up? Just like you have that righteous indignation right now, that righteous anger where you want to do something, but you want to be very wise with what you do, because I think that there is something that is coming, and I believe that God has put this on different people's hearts for a reason, because it's coming. Everything's going to come to be exposed, and we're going to have to deal with this.
Yeah.
And so those who have that compassion for those people, those are going to be the ones who are going to be used.
Yeah, I remember one particular woman that I had watched on a YouTube interview, and I probably will never forget what she said. She said that she wants to be. She was in it, and she got out, and she said that she wants to be thought of in the same way that you would think of a woman who is married, who works as a nurse, who has 2 kids, and lives in a standard home, and instead of this sex object. And it's like, this is a real person.
Yeah.
This is real. All she wants to do is be thought of in a way that transcribes or ascribes value. Nobody wants to be thought of as an object. Nobody wants to be thought of as this person being abused on a video.
Yep.
Nobody wants to be thought of as somebody that's only worth the sex that they can provide. They want to be thought of and considered as human beings, and human beings with great and unsurpassable value. And it's like, it's so tragic. It's so tragic. And
I think what you said is that what they do, the first thing that they do, and this is the way manipulation happens, and it is through like fear and coercion, where they start to control and manipulate their minds so that they're so afraid to not do it. That's how when a child is being abused someplace, they're so afraid to go and get help, because the person who is the abuser is telling that person, I'm going to kill your family member. I'm not going to kill you because you I have a value for you, but I'm going to kill something you love if you say something. And then that's how they get them to do what they want them to do. When you start to understand it, and I believe there's a movie that's coming out very, very soon about sex trafficking and human trafficking, which I can't think of the name, so I'm sure somebody's going to put it in, but it's supposed to be, I think that's what's going, once that comes out, something's going to shift, and that's going to be it. It's going to be game on. Because I know that even like you have, Richard, we're friends with we have a mutual friend, and we've had conversations, because there is something that he feels is coming. There's something that is coming. We all feel it. People have been having dreams. There have been people who've been taken away in the spirit, where they have been with children who have been sex trafficked, or people who've been sex trafficked and have helped them to get out and to navigate it. So this is something that is very, very much on Papa's heart. Very, very much on Papa's heart.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that too.
Yeah. So there's all of these things that are happening, and it's interesting to see, like when you look back, because we were saying this is your life, but when you look back and you see, like, can you see the things and the gifting that you had, how it's still being used. It's just being used in different ways throughout your life, because God doesn't ever take away the gifts inside of us. It's not like it gets either repurposed, it gets retooled, or it gets refined.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really good. That's really good insight, and that's really good points. And I think that goes back to the importance of not getting so hung up on a specific calling in a specific season. Because if we end up making it all about the assigned task in a specific season, it's so hard to move on from that, because we're always looking for that thing to catapult us to the next thing. It's like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Instead of being able to embrace and celebrate the maturity and the developments of the gifts and abilities that God has given us through each of those callings or designations in those seasons, so that we can see them develop, see them mold, and transfer into the rest of our lives as we move forward, and as God brings other opportunities in front of us. Now we are working with a matured gift of whatever it happens to be, prophecy or healing or empathy, sympathy, insight into things like the sex industry and knowing strategizing and knowing how to reach them. And there's some great stuff going on in California with some ministries out there and being able to reach these victims of the sex industry, and all over the world, all over the United States. There's ministries that are reaching out to them and helping them. But yeah, absolutely, to be able to continue to use the gifts that God has given us in different ways and in for different assignments. So yeah.
Yes. And when we start to look at it, because God is he is always like looking for those men, those women who are willing to stand up. Moses, he saw the injustices of the Israelites. He didn't even realize that he was called to do that. He didn't realize that he was going to be the deliverer of the Israelites out of Egypt. He didn't know that. But there was something that happened that he saw that rose something up inside of him that said, I can't just sit back and let this stand. Something has to be done. And so he actually killed an Egyptian and then ran away. Yeah. But there is always something that makes us say, no, I can't be silent about that, whatever that is. And it can change. It can definitely change. But I sometimes believe that God is preparing us in this other places for that time where you just get to step in to exactly what you were supposed to do.
Yeah. Can I say one more quick thing about, because I think is important, because I think that oftentimes we're driving down the road and we see a woman who's dressed like a prostitute, or we judge the waitresses who work at places like Hooters or Wings or some other place that really celebrates sexuality of women. And we need to understand that those, well, as far as the prostitutes go, just the brokenness of the individual there, and some of the things that we've already talked about. When you start talking about women who work at Hooters or some of the other places that celebrate the sexuality of women, we have to understand that these are places that these are just pools for predators that come into and talk to the women. There are so many times that the women who work at Hooters end up in prostitution and then get into pornography. Like that is the pathway. The broken women come into and work at Hooters, and they get taken by the people who are involved in those other industries. And so I think that it would be so valuable if we could look at them without the judgment that is associated with it. It's like, oh, look, she works at Hooters. No, well, just take a second here. She is being victimized at those places. She's broken. Nobody wants to be thought of in that way. Nobody wants to be doing these things. And so, anyway, I just wanted to say that let's be super careful about how we judge people and how we see people, and really view them through the lens of Jesus.
Well, and I think, let's go a step further. Let's even talk about, those who are caught up in any type of an identity crisis. Let's put it that way. Anybody who has an identity crisis. Okay, they don't know who they are. They're questioning who they are. So it could be somebody who's questioning their sexuality. It could be somebody who's questioning their identity. It's somebody who is questioning their value. Because it's all an identity crisis. Because if you don't know who you are, you're willing to believe what somebody else says about you. And so if you're being demeaned, if you're being degraded, and if you're being abused, you're going to believe what your victim says, or you're going to believe the voice in your head that says that I have no value. So I'm only good for this.
Yeah.
I seem to have a great body, so I'm going to take my body and I'm going to use it to solicit to get money. Why not? Because and I've heard that's how they start. That's how they start, because they think that they're empowered by, I'm going to use my body. And what happens is they get hooked up with someone who then becomes the abuser to use them.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that we have to look at, and it really comes down to, you and I were having a discussion off air, but it's that so many people do not see their beauty. Women don't know that they're beautiful. You can go into a church You can go into a church, and I guarantee if you went in front of the congregation, I guarantee at least 75% of those women do not think that they're beautiful. You
Hmm.
can ask them, raise your hand if you think that you're beautiful. I really don't think you'd have a huge amount. I really don't.
Yeah,
Because
probably right.
women have been taught that this is what beauty is, and you can't achieve it because the way that that beauty is, it's impossible to achieve, especially if you're a mom, if you're working, if you're or you're you're in college and you're trying to you're barely getting by, whatever that is, whatever that thing is. They're Photoshop, they're airbrush, they have all their makeup is airbrushed, their hair is professionally done, the clothing is even fitted to their body so that you can't even look at it.
Yeah.
Lorraine. um, that's right, Lorraine. You are beautiful. We had a conversation on the beach. That's why she's doing that. She is beautiful, and she is beautiful. She is beautiful. But that's the thing. So these women who get wrapped up in these businesses is because they're told maybe for the first time, "Oh, you're so pretty. Oh, I'd like
Yeah.
to take your picture." And it
Yeah.
starts off innocent. It's not like they woke up one day and say, "Hey, I'm going to go do porn movies." That's
Right.
not how it is. Just like that Casting Crown song. It's a slow fade.
Yeah.
But I think what you said is so beautiful that we have to be so very careful about how we judge, especially now, because God is looking and listening intently to what people are doing and saying,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So, okay. So one other thing, what's new or what's coming up for Jesse Birkey? Jesse, what is coming up in your life?
Oh, good question. Well, I am my next goal in my career is battalion chief. I would love to pursue that, and so I plan to do that in just a couple of years. I have started and stopped a new writing project a couple of times, and so I am continuing to just reflect on that and to take that step by step. We're involved in Karen and I, our whole family actually are pretty involved in the church that we're going to, and we love what God is doing in this region through all the churches. It's been beautiful to see all the different churches in this region connect and do some beautiful things together. And so, yeah, just being and trying to hear clearly what I'm graced to do in this situation, as opposed to what I have the opportunity to do.
I love
And
that.
and we'll just do that.
I love that. I love that. I love what I'm graced to do because God will give you the grace for a season to do something.
Yeah.
But then when that grace why is it that so many people will stay when the grace is gone?
Well, that's a good question. I think there's probably a lot of reasons, but the one that's so fresh on my heart right now is because we've made purpose the title, we've made purpose the function. And so if that function or that title goes away, then what's our purpose? So
Ooh, that's deep.
yeah.
That's very deep. Because but if your purpose is always in Jesus, you never run out of a purpose.
No, exactly.
Right?
That's right.
So there you go.
So
All
then
right.
it doesn't matter if the title or the specific function goes away, because your purpose is to be.
Yep. See?
And do that whatever you're doing.
That's right. And I think that's the thing. When you know that you can sit, you can hear, and that's the biggest problem, is that there are so many people who have just sort of come back into finding God, especially after 2020. Because seriously, that's been the big thing. Like, there are so many people who came and they started finding God again because they were scared, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so as you start to understand that there's a bunch of people who are coming who are hungry, but the churches are closed. The people are, they're not teaching some of the stuff, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, how do we reach those individuals and train them up in which way that they should go? Right? How do we do that and but yet take it outside of a church. And so that's where I see that it could be at a fitness boutique, or
Yeah,
it could be at a fire station, or
absolutely.
it could be through our children, or it could be through just the connections that we make.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, because I think that the Berkey family is a walking, talking connector to Jesus. Every
Well,
single
thank you
one.
so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm very excited to hear you say that you are doing some projects and thinking and having some writing ideas because, boom, finding
There it
home.
is.
There it is.
In your faces
In
again.
your face, because I'm going to show it again because I love it. And then of course we have A Walk Through the Light,
Yeah.
because that is Jesse's favorite book.
Yes.
That is your favorite book. And then, of course, we have The Life Resurrected. So if people want to go there, they can actually go to Amazon and get all these books. But that's my personal favorite. Although I want to say, I don't even know if I have that book. I don't know if I do. I might have to go and look.
Yeah, I'll send it your way if I can.
Really? You think I might be able to get one from that author? You think
Maybe.
so?
I got a connection, I
You
think.
do got a connection. All right,
Yeah.
let's all
He's
have
kind
a
of
connection.
he's kind of stingy though. I'll have to try to work it out with
No, no,
him.
not in no. And he's an awesome coffee maker. I'm just saying, he's an awesome coffee. He can make the coffee. I go
Make
to
the
the Berkey.
coffee.
Oh yeah, I go to the Berkey's house. I'm like, Jesse, can you make me some coffee? It's like, I'm like, Kara's like, you want me to make you coffee? I'm like, no, I'll wait for Jesse. You can cook for me, Kara, but I'll wait for Jesse's coffee. So you are so awesome, and I love you. I love Kara, and I love the kids, and of course, just for you guys, if you would like to get books. Because guess what? It's summertime, and summertime means summer reading. So these are great books to take to the beach, to take to the park, just to basically go and take your mind away from what's going on. Because I'm telling you, there is going to be. It's nice just to kind of sit back and just to see how God can move through the pages of some stories. So Jesse, thank you so much for coming and sharing on Touched by Prayer.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. It's always great to chat with you.
Always, and we're gonna have to have Miss Kara back. So just hang tight. I'm gonna say bye to you off air. So say goodbye to everybody.
Okay, goodbye.
Goodbye. Okay, hold on. Okay, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. I just want to show the graphics again. Finding Home, which is awesome. One of my favorites. Then we have A Walk Through the Light and Life Resurrected. So if you want to get any one of those books, you can go over to Amazon, type in Jesse Birkey. He has a couple, I think, other books. I think that might be up there. Also, for you ladies, just a last minute thing. We are not a last minute thing, but this is my Daddy's Girl Conference, which is coming to Coleman, Alabama, June 25th and 26th. So if you guys are interested, you can go over to the website, touchedbyprayer.com. Make sure that you register because it is going to be closing very, very soon. So go and get your place. There's a lot of people here on the chat who are coming. Got a lot of people coming from Crown Chats. So I'm so glad that you guys enjoyed this. Yes. And just to let you know, every morning, Monday through Friday, is Crown Chats. So if you want to know what Crown Chats is about, come on in at 8:30 every morning. And let's see the perspective that God has for the day. So there we go. All right, guys. I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope this has blessed you. Go over to Amazon. Go get a copy of any one of Jesse's books. I'm guaranteeing you will be very, very happy. So have an awesome night. And don't forget to go out and touch someone. Good night.